Good evening, class. Online class, is the AV working? Online class, yes, no. AV is working? Okay. So today we'll be starting with Polity and Governance ka current affairs. The topics for this week are India's municipal financial crisis, Supreme Court on digital arrest scams, restoring fiscal space for the states, specifically dealing with your GST, and Ayushman Bharat and universal health coverage. We will also be speaking about curbs on ORS misuse. Okay. So the first one is India's municipal financial crisis. See, first thing is with respect to municipal financial crisis. This will again bring in the concept of federalism. See, in polity class many a times we have discussed federalism as India's federalism is cooperative federalism, competitive federalism, and it's often criticized as bargaining federalism. India's federalism is cooperative, competitive and bargaining. The first two aspects are seen in a very positive limelight. That is, we have to promote this kind of federalism. Now, whenever we tell cooperative federalism or competitive federalism, I told you this is from a positive limelight. Bargaining usually does not come in a positive but rather in the challenging. That is, the states or the local bodies have to ask and ask and ask and then your center will do. So it's more like the same word, bargain. You have to ask a lot for them to do something to you. So this concept of municipal financial crisis lies somewhere in this concept only. In simpler sense, why this particular topic we are discussing means GST compensation cess. Little bit later also this topic will be coming in. There also we will discuss. But otherwise, if you see with respect to finances, in our country, financial autonomy for states and your local bodies are dependent on the center. Why? Because we are a unitary, federal with unitary bias, and financial autonomy largely lies with respect to your center. When I tell financial autonomy largely rests with center, what do I mean? Okay. Very good, majority decisions. Another thing is your 7th schedule. In 7th schedule, you have lists. You have union list, state list and concurrent list. If you see the number of items in the union list, it is 100. It is the highest among all these three, which indicates that anything in union's list, center can legislate on that, center can tax on that. So, and also alongside this, anything that is not there in this lists, that is called as residuary power. Residuary power lies with your center. So, which means anyone who can tax on the residuary power is also your center, automatically making the center or union more strong in financial matters, thus reducing the financial autonomy of state and local bodies. Recently, one of the main reason as to why we started discussing your municipal crisis is more than, okay, considerably a large amount of GDP was contributed by the cities. But these cities, now for example, let's take Bangalore city. It collects good amount of taxes and it has to give it to the center. But if you see the overall amount of money that it uses for itself has become very minimal, that it has been depending on the states and your center in a very large level. Earlier what happened was cities themselves, that is municipal bodies, panchayats and municipal are called as local governance. These used to have certain amount of taxing freedom. But this taxing freedom was taken away by your GST. With GST taking away this taxation, municipalities have further become very much stressed. So much so that urban local bodies contribute, that is the urban portion of India, which is coming from all the cities, are contributing to 65% of GDP. That same urban local bodies are not even getting 1% of total revenue. This indicates that 65% of revenue we are pouring in, but not even getting 1% of revenue. This is called as fiscal mismatch. This is a very important word. It's almost the shortages that your municipality is facing. One second. Online class, is it audible? Online class, is it audible? Okay. Now what happened? If you see major things like we discussed as to how the finances are dependent on, first and foremost, one of the main reason as to why municipalities are so much stressed, that is without finances, is weak own source revenue. That is, earlier at least they had something called as octroi taxes, entry taxes, permits, sale of goods, etc. But with the incoming of GST, they are not having their own source to generate revenue. When they are not able to generate revenue, they are depending on your states. Before GST, there was this concept. Let's say this is Karnataka. Okay? We are focusing on urban cities, right? This is Bengaluru. This is an urban area, which means urban area will be involving a lot of consumption and services. How this particular area would generate income or your octroi taxes means, from anywhere else if some goods or services are to enter into Bangalore, okay, they would have to pay something called as like entry tax. If your goods, that is, look at this, if you are carrying goods, let's say Bangalore has now decided I will celebrate every festival with pompous. Now next Christmas is coming up, right? So I will get all Christmas trees, decorate all those things, whatever it is, okay? Because it is an urban area, cosmopolitan city. Consumption is the only thing. If someone decides, okay, if I sell Christmas trees and all these lightings, I'll make more money. So what one person does, in a container pura, he will get all Christmas trees lightings. The value of this goods is 1 lakh rupees. When they have to enter Bangalore, the Bangalore municipality would charge, okay, give me 2% of your goods ka consignment value. He has not sold it, he is just bringing the goods. But if you have to enter Bangalore, you can pay 2% taxes. It will be at your usually check posts. But this was before your GST. Then they introduced GST, which is a destination based tax, which means only final consumer will pay, and one nation, one taxation. This subsumed all indirect taxes, which means this entry taxes could no longer be charged by these municipalities. Now when they could not charge that, for the development of your Bengaluru's roads, hospitals, pedestrian walking ke liye, or with respect to schools, with trying to curb the pollution, repairing of the roads, sanitation, drainage, everything now lies with this municipality. And for that municipality it needs funds. Earlier it could use these funds, now that fund cannot be used. So it has to rely on state or it has to rely on center, which has made it very difficult for municipalities, because if they ask states are not going to be like, here, take 1 crore rupees, take and go. This is leading to huge amount of criticism from the municipalities that they are not doing any work, but real truth is they are not having enough funds to do the work. Okay, so with the GST, this concept of your, okay, look at this, 19% average revenue loss for your urban local bodies because octroi tax. It's more like your entry tax, which was the source tax. Each time you enter into a particular place, you can pay tax. Your local levies, all of these which were done by the municipality was subsumed by GST. Another important thing is, in your center and states, when GST was introduced, GST introduced something called as GST compensation cess. That was only given for the states, but that was not given to your urban local bodies. In now let's say all the money will be pooled. Okay, center and state has decided after GST we will pool all our money together and divide it among ourselves. So the division of this fund is also only between center and state and not for any urban local body or your Panchayati Raj system. So technically whatever tax that they used to levy was also taken off, and in this pool they are not given a share also. Clear up until here? Now what is the reason for your municipalities ka finances? Low tax base, that is, as of now they are able to collect money from the people, means it's only through two things. One is property tax. Okay, this property tax that they are going to collect, let's say the property was there somewhere in 1970s, 1980s, that time ka valuation and this time ka valuation has changed. Back then the property was worth 1 crore rupees, so you will collect 2% of that. But today the property is worth, let's say, 20 crore rupees, but still the people are paying the same property tax once it was valued, not the present updated rates. And also lack of predictable grants. Even the State Finance Commission, which is telling the state to give the money, now Finance Commission ka recommendations are not binding, which means states are not obligated to give funds, and it has become more and more discretionary. Alongside this, the municipal bodies have to implement schemes also that your center tells. For example, your urban mobility programs, your smart city programs, heritage schemes, all of these things are to be done by the municipality, and whatever money is given, they are already telling implement these. So if municipality wants, they do not have any additional funds to make this happen. First and foremost, if you see the concept of municipal bonds, this is a very important concept. Municipality highlighted its condition that we are not able to raise money from anywhere. So your institutions like RBI and all suggested, why don't you raise bonds? From the public you raise money. But if you say one thing with respect to your municipal bonds, yes, it was portrayed as people will invest in the government bond, municipality will pool all that money and do this, let's say, development of highway, road, sanitation. Through the income generated, they will divide and give it all. So RBI initially told, yes, with this you will be able to raise money. This was the promise to the municipality, you can now become self-sufficient. But the reality was opposite. No one wanted to invest. No private entrepreneur wanted to come in. Understanding? Until and unless your private capital is coming into development of infrastructure, you cannot be for sure or certain. And also they are even to ask money, borrowing scale also, RBI is telling what is your source of income. If your municipality tells no, states are giving me funds, no, RBI is questioning how long will they give it for. So even for municipality itself, it has become difficult to borrow money and also raise money or even get the private ventures to invest in it. Your property taxes which your municipality collects, it is only 20 to 25% of the revenue of what municipality makes, and one of the most issue is because manual assessment. Once they would have did in 1970s, 18 outdated assessments, that only is continuing even today. Many places which they have called as fallow lands are now into 4, 5, 6 floors buildings that they are not even getting income. So first and foremost, they are telling digitize everything and bring in GIS mapping so that all the data will be in your real time data. And for this, with respect to your urban local bodies, if you see, we have 73rd for Panchayati Raj, 74th for your urban local bodies, wherein these urban local bodies are given as self-governing institutions. But this itself has issues because they do not have adequate financial capabilities. One question from this topic. I'll read out the statement. You tell me if the statements are correct or wrong. With reference to urban local bodies, the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act provides the Constitution for State Finance Commission to recommend distribution of revenues between state government and municipalities. Yes, no? Okay. I am reading out, you guys tell me yes, no, then only I will give final answer. After implementation of GST, municipalities directly receive a share of GST revenue from the center. Okay. Property tax constitutes to the single largest source of revenue for most municipal bodies in India. See, understand this. Property tax. Previously I told 20 to 25% of money they are getting is from there only. Single largest source. Most municipal bodies in India. Which means for many people, their source of income, if you see, apart from your state given funds to the municipalities and from your center given funds to implement schemes such as your Amrut, Hriday, Smart Cities. Okay. Apart from these things, if they are getting any money, that is through property tax. But single largest source, is this the single largest source? One of the sources. Okay, because we have other two also. Okay. Next thing is implementation of GST. Municipalities directly receive a share of GST revenue. I told you in GST they are dividing between center and state. Even though they have taken off your municipality taxes, they are not giving any share to your municipalities. That is the one that these people are claiming. Next, 74th Constitutional Amendment Act provided for the State Finance Commission to recommend the distribution of revenues between state government and municipalities. Let's assume you don't know the statement. You don't know whether it is true or false. Try to deal it with logic. 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Is it for urban local bodies? Okay. Provides for Constitution of State Finance Commission. What is the role of State Finance Commission? To give or at least recommend funds to the urban local bodies, right? When did urban local bodies come in? 74th Amendment, right? So, State Finance Commission should have been created after the urban local bodies were created only. So, the possibility is this statement of being right is correct. Logic is simple. 74th Constitutional Act provides for Constitution of State Finance Commission. Okay, this they are not telling your 74th Constitutional Amendment Act created State Finance Commission. They are telling now whatever was a two-tier structure, center and state, will now be created as three-tier structure, center, state and and local bodies. This local bodies involves both your municipalities and panchayat. Up until now, according to Article 280, we have only one thing, that is Finance Commission. Yes or no? When already Finance Commission is there and only two things were there, why would we need State Finance Commission? It would only be needed when this is created. So which means there is a high possibility that State Finance Commission was the one which will recommend funds to your local bodies. Yes or no? So that statement also becomes correct. Next topic is Supreme Court expresses grave concern over rising digital arrest scams. Why are we discussing this news? If you see, Supreme Court has taken suo moto interest into the digital arrest scams. Recently what happened, Haryana pe, two older couples, both were of the age of 70 plus. Both husband and wife are 70 plus. They got cheated by your digital arrest scam. So cyber security has been lapsed, meaning the way these couples, both couples have crossed 70 plus years, which means they are more of elderly population, who were cheated with three things. People posing as CBI, Enforcement Directorate and judicial letters. Someone entered into the old couple's house and they pointed them out and gave them all the, like if judiciary would give out notice, how it would be, the same way these people had faked and forged your judicial papers, served them these papers and told that you have amassed a particular so and so property. So somehow they had made the elderly couple believe that this is genuinely your CBI, ED and your judiciary serving them notice. And through that they looted around 1.5 crores of money from the elderly population. Okay. Now this particular case has led to Supreme Court directly getting involved into this. That is why suo moto cognizance. That is, it is telling that this is not one isolated incident. Like this, many places in India it is happening. And how they are threatening the people means through your digital arrest concept. Doing everything in online mediums only. Understanding? Now largely who gets affected by this means your rural people, illiterate people and elderly people. Because there is, and in fact the documents that it was shown to the judiciary, it was so shocking for them. They have forged it so well that it would become difficult for normal people to tell the fake and real. Understanding? Because not every day everyone will keep getting letters from CBI and the Supreme Court. So your justice benches held by Suryakant and Jayamala Bakshi, they have held that the forged Supreme Court orders, whichever was used to extort the victims, from now onwards these cases are not to be considered as cyber crime but criminal cases itself. Criminal cases pe, there is this provision where if you are doing bailable and non-bailable offences are there. So compoundable offence, non-compoundable offences. In criminal cases, if you are purposely doing with the intent of creating malice, harm, then the let's say under your CRPC sections and with respect to your Bharati Nyaya Sanhita and all those things, you get very stringent punishments. So they are telling treat these cases like that. Understanding? So here your judiciary has told the centre, Haryana government and CBI, all three to be involved and take a look into this, and it also decided to even involve your Attorney General of India. So first and foremost, the forged Supreme Court documents to extort from the victims is not an independent isolated event, it's happening throughout. And also they have said cyber fraud, they have tried to differentiate between your cyber crime and criminal offence, and they are telling this should be treated as criminal offence. Cyber fraud means impersonation of any law enforcement or judiciary to extort money. They are telling this is the very nature that should be brought under your criminal offense. What were the tactics used in this elderly couple's case? Fake documents, that is court orders, summons and warrants were sent. Alongside that, they said if they don't give them the money, that is pay the court or pay the ED, then they will be arrested under PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now the older people who are already in their 70s, they are too afraid to run behind this thing. So they had ended up transferring 1.5 crore rupees. And the technologies that they used in doing that was video calls, fake signatures and deep fake images. And at this way, when found out what was the age target of these people, it was very elderly or non-tech savvy, that is your digital illiterate. And alongside this, if you see the financial losses, it is ranging from rupees to crores of money. Why we have told rupees to crores of money is they are not leaving even the common people with bare minimum. Wherever they are able to scam, 1000 they are able to scam, they are scamming. So Supreme Court observed that this is forged judicial documents are creating grave concerns because people tend to believe it is true if it is from judiciary, and to be brought in under serious criminal offence and not just cyber fraud, because here punishment is more severe. And also one of the things they are deciding to do is make sure they bring awareness to the people about your digital arrest scams. Now recently when they are quoting this, they are also quoting the data from National Crimes Reporting Bureau, where they have said that more than 5.5 lakh complaints has been raised in 2024 alone. The growth of cyber crimes has increased from 20 to 25% by impersonating fraud, claiming you are someone who you are not. Usually that means someone from your law. And also the common targets are elderly, urban professionals, financially illiterate individuals. Okay. Alongside this, they are using all sort of technology to make sure that it sounds and looks genuine. So if you see with regarding to the legal provisions that we have in order to deal with the cases, IPC sections, okay, for cheating, forgery, fraud, and IT sections 2000, okay. Under this, any identity theft or digital impersonation will also be brought under the ambit, wherein both these cases, okay, in both these cases, in cheating, forgery, fraud, identity theft and digital impersonation, who will take care means both your CBI also will deal with these cases, and also state cells, state level bodies which are there to specifically deal with these particular cases. Understanding? Judicial implications. One of the main reasons your judiciary is telling we have to take a look into this particular cases is, first and foremost, interagency coordination is required if we have to deal with these cases. Another thing is bring public awareness and strengthen your cells, cyber cells. Here we mean state cells, because this is the first place that incidents are happening, right? So we have to strengthen these and also make sure that the court has faster, let's say, inquiry into digital fraud cases. It shouldn't expand further. So how can we prevent this particular issue from further happening? And because I told you it is suo moto, judiciary has taken up itself. Verify the identity of officials before any transactions. Cross-check the orders via official portals or through local police stations. And also use NCRP, that is your National Crime Reporting Portal, has to be checked in or check in with the local police station. And also avoid sharing bank details, and also if at all you come across any of these things, launch a formal complaints. So one particular question on this. With reference to recent digital arrest scam case, consider the following statements. The Supreme Court took suo moto cognizance into the matter of senior couple from Haryana was defrauded. Yes, no? Okay, correct. The scam involved the use of forged judicial documents and video calls impersonating officials. Okay. Such crimes are investigated only by the CBI under IT Act of 2000. See, Supreme Court took so much of cognizance after senior couple of Haryana was defrauded is correct. Because they said this should not be seen as one case, this should be seen as something that's affecting the whole country now. Scam involved use of forged judicial documents. This is what alarmed the judiciary. That judicial documents are now getting forged. That is the reason why they took up it in the first place, because people believe when it is judicial. Such crimes are investigated only by the CBI under IT Act. Let's assume you didn't know this. This is not the answer. This is CBI plus your state cells. This should be your trigger word. So only first two statements. Next topic, restoring fiscal space for the states. Okay. We are discussing this topic. The first topic and this topic have a relation. 2017 when your GST came in. This GST had more of subsumed a lot of indirect taxes. First one we saw how municipality taxes were subsumed. Like that, many indirect taxes were subsumed of the states. Now states were facing huge loss, especially manufacturing states. Now to make sure this loss incurred by the states are compensated, GST itself had brought in something called as GST compensation cess. That is, for 5 years we will give the compensation for the states for what they potentially lost in these indirect taxes. It was in 2017, finally that ended. This GST compensation cess ended in 2025. Because of that, this topic has come back into the issue. That is, from now on states will receive no such compensation from the center. And same like in the first topic that we discussed, the center and state receives money both of them together will levy and collect the money, divisible pool. What is that? Your GST money. This GST money should be again divided by center and states. From 1950 to almost 2015, the devolution of funds from center to state used to happen in 3 ways. Planning Commission, Finance Commission, centrally sponsored schemes. Look at this, up from 1950 to 2015 onwards, any money that is kept was divided between center and state in 3 ways. Planning Commission was the one that used to use more of all the devolution of large amount of money was with your Planning Commission only. Next was Finance Commission, whose recommendation are only recommendatory, not binding on the government. Third used to be central sponsored schemes. That is, 60 will be borne by the 60% of scheme ka money will be borne by the center, 40% by states. This is in normal states. If it is your northeastern states, 90% by center, 10% by states. If it is union territories, 100% by the center. 2015 Planning Commission was abolished. So from 2015 to 2025, the devolution of funds back then from 1915 to 2025, Finance, that is 2015, Finance Commission played a lesser role only because all the role was done by Planning Commission. From 2015 to 2025, the role was largely played by Finance Commission and your centrally sponsored schemes. Whatever the Finance Commission tells, even today also, it is still recommendatory only in nature and it is not binding on government, but usually your center will do. Your finance commission has told that 42% of whatever money you get, you divide it with the states. Center agreed. Now, in this recently, this is, let's assume, the money of your GST money. Let's say finance commission will tell, in this 42% give it to the states. Considerably good amount of money, only almost half they are getting. Despite this, states are facing financial crunch, center is still having a lot of money. How? That is the reason of this topic. First and foremost, when I told states are still facing financial crunch. When we say states are getting money, there is two things: statutory grants, discretionary grants. Statutory grants means something that is decided when they do the budget, right? This particular states ke liye, this particular money allocation, it is a very small amount of money only, they can't use, it's excess, it's not. Then comes discretionary grants. If center likes to whichever state, it can just give. It doesn't have to have a valid reason as to why it is giving this amount of money for any state, and no state can ask it as a matter of right. And if you see, when a center is giving it to states, center is giving in a very differential manner. Of all the funds that your Haryana received, only 20% of money it got from the center. Okay, all the funds of Haryana state, if you put together, in that only 20% came from center. Whereas if you see for Bihar, more than 40 to 46% of money was received by the center. That is, in all the funds Bihar had, 40% was received from center. So do you see there is a difference of percentage of money given to each state? Usually this is motivated by your political factors also. Understanding? This is first thing as to why states are still facing financial crunch. Second most important thing is, your center always is trying to act smart. Remember I told you in the starting, lists pe there are three: union list, state list, concurrent list. In that union has higher number. There is also something called as residuary powers. In that your center charges something called as cess and surcharge. Whatever it levies as your only center can levy cess and surcharge. Economy pe they would have taught you what is cess and surcharge. This money or this kind of tax can be levied only by center, and this is not added in the GST divisible pool. All this directly go only to the center. Center will not divide this money with states or with your municipalities. And recently if you have seen, yes, GST money, it is normal. They have not added or increased or subtracted anything. The percentage of money that they have collected from cess and surcharge in 1 year alone is 3.08 lakh crores. That is going to increase to 4 lakh crores by the next year. So 4 lakh crores is explicitly the only money of center which it does not have to share it with the states, and it does not even enter GST. Your states are now claiming, how about you create a divisible pool in cess and surcharge also? Because either way, even after doing your GST, many states are still facing difficulty. The manufacturing states are still facing difficulty. All the decisions to GST will be taken by your GST council. But GST council pe, even though states have the majority of the representation, the states which are in manufacturing sector are finding it difficult because GST is a destination based tax. Earlier, it was our taxation, indirect taxation was origin based. So that part of time manufacturing states used to benefit well. Now destination means where you are selling that product, that states will benefit. Understanding? So because of this, the states have claimed that this is becoming very difficult, because the states have also now, every state has started its own welfare schemes. Free electricity, free bus, free that, free this, everything. They also need money. This money is not sufficient for us. This money you are giving only to your political similarities. This money though you are not even giving anyone, you are using it for yourself. Understanding? So states are asking for a slice of cake in your cess and surcharge. So your GST was discontinued, and that is GST cess compensation was discontinued, and also earlier whatever was 14% of revenue growth which was to be given to states, that is also now removed. Now what is going to happen because of that? Cess and surcharge is rising. This is one way center is using more amount of money for itself, and also there is a huge amount of volatility seen with respect to how the states are not able to meet the demands with the money they are having. So in here, if you see with respect to the issues like we discussed, unified indirect tax, that is your GST came in. Earlier it was origin based, now it has become destination based. Shared tax, that is center and states are sharing, because of this states can even more further reduce. And lastly, cess and surcharge is going only to your center. With respect to constitutional framework, from articles 268 to 293 speaks about fiscal distribution between your states and center. Otherwise, what we call as fiscal federalism is highlighted. This can come as a statement kind of question. Write this down. Fiscal federalism is highlighted from article 268 to 293. And planning commission concept is mentioned in article 280. Okay. So I told you up until 2015 we had planning commission also, but after it it's only these two. 282 is discretionary grants. Like I told you, it is mostly politically motivated. Whichever the center wants to give, it will give it to that particular state. 14th Finance Commission told that 42% of funds to be transferred to your states, but again that is not binding on the government. So the cess and surcharge has kept on increasing very consecutively. That means center is getting more money indirectly. In a way it is benefiting the center. Recently your center cut tax collection became 72%. In the states were able to spend around 52%. But if you see overall in all these funds put together, it is the center that is always at an advantage. Okay. So what are the demands that is coming from the states? Follow the Canadian model. If the states, now whatever center state concept is there, if the states are collecting 54% of the taxes, let's assume just on an average, you give them 60% to spend, which means more than what states are collecting, give them to spend. But reality is we are not even giving remotely close to how much they are collecting. If our states are collecting, let's say 30%, they are given somewhere around 12%. Another thing is merge cess and surcharge into divisible pool, that is bring it into that full poolable money, so we will divide that also. Last is create an independent fiscal council, that is someone who will look into how the states are facing difficulty. Finance Commission alone is not able to do. Another thing is your IT, your income tax is completely there for your center. That they are telling, share that also. Wherever center is getting the money, share it with the states. One question in this. With reference to debate on on restoring fiscal space for Indian state, consider the following statements. The end of GST compensation period has exposed the real revenue generation capacity of the states. Okay. Cess and surcharge collected by the union are fully shareable with the states under Article 270. Right. After the abolition of Planning Commission, Finance Commission grants and central sponsored schemes remain the two main channels of center transfer to states. End of GST compensation period. GST compensation period is, that is from 2017 how much ever states were able to will possibly generate, that amount of compensation was given. Meaning, let's assume, now this is state A, this is state B. Usually this was at a profit of 100 rupees. Usually, okay. Now with the introduction of GST, that means all this money would be cut off. But because states raised the complaint that no, my revenue will be lost, what center used to do was, center used to give this 100 rupees. Okay, how? Through your GST compensation cess. Now with this gone, we are actually seeing how much is this particular state making. In this, it is showing that the state could have made much more better than what it is making right now. Understanding? So first one is, cess and surcharge collected by the union government are fully shareable. This is completely wrong because it is not at all shareable. Okay? Usually in statement kind of question, these are the only words that they will replace. After the abolition of Planning Commission, Finance Commission grants and CSS are the only ways how center is transferring money to the state. That is correct. Next is Ayushman Bharat and Universal Health Coverage. See, this is an older scheme only, very old scheme. We have discussed it many times, but here why it was brought in means your NHA, National Health Authority, which is chaired by Union Health Minister. This is important. National Health Authority, which is chaired by the Union Health Minister, they have given out a recent findings. According to that findings, they have found that you have heard about this Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, which is per family. Let that family be only your male, female or 10 members, 15 members, doesn't matter. Per family means no limit on gender, caste or ceiling, which means how many members are there in the family. Doesn't matter. Per family, per year, 5 lakh rupees insurance cover is there. Understand this? According to Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, per family will get 5 lakh rupees insurance cover from the government. Now this family has to be your poor family, which means this scheme is targeting 40% of the poor population. How are they able to find out the poor population? With your socio-economic caste census of 2011. 2021 ka one more had to take place, that they will do with your election commission, this 2027. So from this data, and also earlier there was a scheme called as Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. That was also one insurance scheme only. So whoever were benefactors there, per family, if you belong to SEC, socio-economic caste census, if you are coming under poor, more of poor category, alongside this, the elderly population, if you are above, let's say 60 years, whichever income category you belong, doesn't matter. Even if you are rich, you're middle class, you're poor, doesn't matter. All of these people are given 5 lakh insurance cover. In this, you will get treatment to 2 kind of diseases: secondary diseases and tertiary diseases. Primary diseases means your basic things such as what we get, common cold, those kind of things. Secondary, tertiary means higher grade of diseases which needs specialized help from doctors. In this, your Jan Arogya Yojana or Ayushman Bharat scheme, they have earlier what we called as primary health centers. Under Ayushman Bharat were changed as Ayushman Mandiras, Ayushman Arogya Mandiras. Nothing but same center only, but in that they have added mental health also. So anyone who require help with all this, your your primary healthcare center will be there to treat. But issue what happened was, in this findings they have found out that the primary healthcare centers are there, but doctors are not there. Why? Because more than 60% of doctors are only in urban areas, rural areas where they are not coming. That is the first thing. Second thing is, now people who are going to these let's say secondary or tertiary care, largely there is something called as empaneled hospitals. Empaneled hospitals means under this particular 5 lakh scheme, it's not like you have to go only to a government hospital. You can even go to a tie-up private hospital also. Almost more than 52% of the people who availed this scheme all went to private hospitals only. Understanding? This is what was found out. The question became as to why are they going to private hospitals only? Total empaneled hospitals we have is 31,000 hospitals. In that we have 45% are private hospitals, 55% are government hospitals. But all the people who availed the services, more than 50% went to only private hospitals. The question came was why? Why are they going to only private hospitals to get this done? And another thing that pointed out was, if you see what was this particular scheme used for, it was for hemodialysis, which means your kidney failure, fever, gastroenteritis, animal bites, largely in your rural areas and all those bits, snake bites and all those things. It was largely used for these only. When they found out as to why specifically, they also found out few things. Certain states have specializations and doctors in that particular areas. Now if you see, top in migration states, people who came into these states to avail those facilities. Chandigarh 19%, UP 13%, Gujarat 11%. Out migration states, from this they went to, see the issue is UP 24%, MP 17%, Bihar 16%. UP is coming in both list. How can one state come in both list? Which means certain specializations are there only in certain states. It is not a equitable or universal distribution. Understanding? This was found out. And also one more thing is, they found out that with respect to the states which are availing the services, the free health concept was available only to secondary and tertiary services, which means primary healthcare ke liye people had to still spend money from their pocket. The whole point of Ayushman Bharat was to make sure that people do not spend their money in healthcare. Okay. Another issue with respect to your Ayushman Bharat is missing middle class, which means in India there is one kind of family. I am not telling specifically middle class, but this is called as missing middle class range. This particular person is not very poor according to SEC survey, but also not rich enough to get an insurance on their own. So what will happen to them? They don't have insurance from government also, they can't afford to buy one insurance on their own also. Okay, so this has become the issue with respect to your missing middle. GST compensation. Look at this. Under Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Arogya Yojana, each family receives 5 lakh per year for which level of care? Primary, secondary and tertiary, outpatient, all of the above. Secondary and tertiary. Last topic is curb on fake ORS production. See, recently this was a very important thing that brought in. One main reason is Shivaranjini Santosh, she is a pediatrician. She had filed a PIL, okay, public interest litigation, and she had connected your Telangana High Court also she had brought in, wherein She fought an 8-year-long campaign to fight for one thing. All the Tetra packs that we get outside in the name of ORS, ORS means oral rehydration solution. Usually whenever children facing diarrhea or any aspects which, now in this particular case, let's say 13 deaths in India in children out of 100 is because of your diarrhea. In this point of time, they lose vital salts from their body. The only way you can cure them is through your ORS solution. Now there is ORS solution which is recommended by World Health Organization. If they drink this, they will be rehydrated. That is why oral rehydration solution. In many cases, a diabetic child in Chennai and also a burn victim, young girl, when they were given ORS, the parents rushed to the hospital, told them, go get ORS solution and feed to the child. The parents rushed, asked the ORS to the pharmacist. They keep giving big Tetra packs which has ORS written. They came, they gave, yet the child died. Many times children all died. That is, all these deaths were preventable, and yet even after giving ORS, the children kept on dying. They found out that it is because the children died because of severe dehydration. Whatever they were given in the name of ORS, it was never really ORS. It was nothing but a sugar drink created by certain companies, but the name was called as ORS. So Shivaranjini Santosh fought a battle that your ORS should not be printed. Even ORSL, ORL, no such kind should be printed if it is not WHO recommended ORS. Initially FSSAI agreed, but later it told, just in 3 months, because of the pressure from all the other companies, they said, okay, you can put ORSL, but you also have to give one disclaimer, this is not WHO recommended ORS. So how they did was ORS in big broad letters. Somewhere in end, in very minute letters, they used to write, this is not WHO recommended solution. Because of this, again further children kept dying. Then finally, with the increasing pressure from the doctor community also, they said any usage of words ORS or even substitutions or synonyms, pseudonyms, nothing should be used if it is not WHO recommended ORS. Okay. So when this was when FSSAI gave out this, recently FSSAI told that no company can ever use the word ORS if it is not the solution that is recommended by World Health Organization. So after that, many companies, despite however big it is, will now not be able to use the word ORS. Okay, that is the end of this topic. Any doubts? Online class, any doubts? And we'll end the session. And also one more thing is, here when the Supreme Court is intervening, first she never went to FSSAI, she went to CDSL, Central Drug. So one of the things here they are trying to deal with is also the jurisdictional issue. If the current batch is not changed, now what she has went to Supreme Court is asking that let them not distribute at all. But they are claiming once the record has come out now, how can you put a retrospective aspect on this? So we have to wait and watch what judiciary will rule on that.